Hello and welcome to Soul of the Scorpio. I am Elizabeth Hudson and I'm here with Dr. Jordan Schaul. We created this podcast out of our passion for all things Scorpio. We are both Scorpios, obviously. I am October 28th. Jordan, your date is
November 7th.
November 7th. So in our discussions, we've gotten talking about how being a Scorpio is a important part of our personality and how it affects things and really looking at things through that eye. And we found that this is an interesting subject for people not just interested in astrology, but really thinking about personality traits and what it means to be a Scorpio. Today we have the honor of talking with Jamie Kendall. Jamie, welcome to, you are our first guest on Soul of the Scorpio. Welcome aboard.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so honored to be your very first guest and excited to talk about being a Scorpio with all of you.
I love it. And you and I share the same birthday, October 28th. So we're kind of considered the cusp of Libra Scorpio, right? Yeah. So tell
Yeah.
us a little bit about yourself, if you would, for a moment. What is it you do and what's been your path and kind of how, from the perspective of a Scorpio woman in particular.
Yeah, so I am a model actress and I work for a fashion brand here in San Francisco called West Coast Leather. I'm their social media manager and publicist. And in terms of being a Scorpio, I relate to a lot of the different traits, just being very determined, ambitious, intense. I feel like I've had a lot of different parts of my life where I've had a lot of sort of transformation and really rebuilt myself
Mm,
and risen from the ashes kind of.
yes.
I'm very resilient and I just love learning about Scorpios. I pay attention to a lot of the Scorpio profiles online. I think it's a lot of fun.
Yes. Thank you for bringing up the Phoenix aspect of the Scorpio, which I want to point out is something that's unique to Scorpio in that everyone has the archetype, right? Each sign has the archetype for Scorpio, obviously being the scorpion, but there's also the archetype of the Phoenix that inherent in the death, because the Scorpio is the sign of death in the tarot, is rebirth, right? And so it's
Mhm.
that regenerative energy of rising again, as you said, from the ashes. And I know a lot of us have that aspect in our lives where it feels like little mini deaths and we're shedding old skins to reemerge as a newer version, a stronger version, a more potent version. It's really fascinating, isn't it?
It is, yeah. And there's just a lot of things that I learn about every day when I read into these little fun profiles on TikTok or Facebook, new things that I pick about being a Scorpio. And I just think it's interesting. I love learning about the different signs as well. I am into astrology and it's just a passion of mine. So I was happy when you guys put this podcast together. I think it's a really great idea and I'm excited to see more of your episodes.
Yeah. And to that point, if even if you're not an expert in astrology, it's always a great tool to kind of add to your life and make sense of things, right? Because you're like, oh, that makes sense because they're a Gemini and they're duplicitous, or
Yeah.
they have, Scorpio, as you said, intense. Jordan, maybe we could talk a little more about the intensity of Scorpio.
Yeah,
You want to add anything to that?
yeah, I was going to quickly say, so I had the pleasure of interviewing Jamie a couple weeks ago for
Oh, cool.
Follow the Shepherd, and what came across to me was that you've been passionate about a lot of things. In college, you went to Vanderbilt, you were an English lit major, just like Elizabeth, interestingly enough. And you
Uh-huh.
seemed like you were a very passionate, driven student. Then you were in commercial real estate. You kind of really immersed yourself in that very competitive, cutthroat field, which takes a lot of passion and fervor, right? And then
Mhm.
when we were talking about your current career, I was so impressed with how resourceful you were because you got into it kind of at a at a later date, if you will, in your lifespan, and but you've really kind of tried to learn what you can about it in ways that you'll find some others may not when they get thrust into that space. So and not to their not as a judgment of them, but I was interested in how passionate you are. So yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you for interviewing me. First of all, that was a lot of fun. And yeah, to touch on that, I push myself 110%, sometimes 150% on everything I do, sometimes to the point of making myself almost sick. Like I'm so ultra competitive that I just put everything into that bucket, for what I'm working on, whether it's school or sports or work. But I put everything into it to get it done and to try and be the best at it. And sometimes other things fall to the wayside, and I have to let other things kind of slip in order to just focus on the number one goal right in front of me in order to try and really excel at it. And so, yeah, I will become very intense when I put my mind towards something, but um, it can be a blessing and a curse. And I think there are a lot of people that are like that. But I have to kind of watch that too. Like at Vanderbilt, I went kind of overboard with my studying sometimes, like pulling all-nighters for everything I did because I almost got superstitious. Um, but yeah, it's just part of that intensity that is part of my personality that I think is a good thing, but sometimes a bad thing too.
Yeah. Well, and that's so indicative of a Scorpio, right? The Scorpio energy being that intense hyper focus that,
hmm
I don't know if you guys get this experience, but when you tell people you're a Scorpio, they're, uh-oh. Do you get
Yeah,
that?
yeah. I
When they see your
know.
little stinger going, but it is because of that intensity that like when a Scorpio is fixated on something, it is a hyper focus and it's incredibly powerful and it can be intimidating, right? To especially to like a more easygoing, a playful Sagittarius or someone who has a different take on life that maybe involves more levity. They often don't understand how intense a Scorpio is. And I want to offer this to you guys. I kind of explain it because we are the sign of death. We are this like, it comes at in the northern hemisphere that time of year when everything dies, right? Where everything starts to go underground, right? And there's a potency to that. There's an intensity and a depth and a um I always feel that time of year. I like feel it in my bones. It's heavy for me. Do you guys experience that at all? Or is that just my witchiness?
Um, I didn't really think about that, but I think that's a really interesting point too about, the time of year. And I do know that there's a dark side to Scorpio, and I think that you're onto something for sure.
Yeah, it's something that I noticed in the especially as I get older. I'm like, oh yeah, here comes that time of year. I feel it, and it's Scorpio season, and I've uh-oh, buckle up. Um, but the intensity of that is like you said, it has positive and negative aspects. The positive being you can be enormously accomplished, right? And get
hmm
a lot done. Um, some people don't understand. Do you get that sometimes, Jordan, where people just don't understand like why you can't just lighten up about something, or do you ever have that experience?
Oh, 100%. I mean, as you know, I like labels, and so it's so much easier to label myself as just a Scorpio rather than the 20,000 indexed psychopathologies in the DSM. It's so much more refreshing.
That's so funny.
And
Yeah.
and I wanted to ask you before I forget, Jamie, are there any recent memes that you've seen on Scorpio that really resonate on these Scorpio sites that really resonate with you? Like, there's some amazing things that I'm like, wow, that's crazy.
So there's a lot of really cool AI
Mhm.
on TikTok.
Yeah.
Um, so they're not really memes. It's more AI where they have really beautiful characters doing, I don't know, different, they're doing different types of demonstrations, and they're like I don't know, different representations of Scorpio, usually like very fantasy types of characters, and then they'll compare it to another type of zodiac sign, and then they talk about different personality traits. And I don't know, I think it's just kind of fun and interesting and artistic. So it's not as much funny as it is more just artistic
Yeah.
and learning about the differences between the traits. I think that is of an interest to me too, the differences between the traits.
Yeah, totally.
And I like,
And how we match with different ones or not, right?
mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You ladies may find this funny, amusing. I was gonna send some of these memes to some ex-girlfriends and just
Right.
see. It's explained right here. It's not.
Yeah.
I'm not just this. I'm a Scorpio. So this is my new
Mhm.
symbol that I have embraced. It's gonna be on my tombstone.
Yeah, exactly.
A lot of these are like who would win in a fight type of AI. Like I don't know who comes up with this stuff, but that is all over my For You page for some reason. And
Yeah,
the more you bookmark, the more they pop up.
that's true. I wanted to share something. I've shared this with Jordan, but years ago I studied Kabbalah, which is, ancient Jewish mysticism. And they have a very strong connection to astrology, and they include astrology in a lot of the mystical teachings. And I had this teacher, Marcus Weston, and it was a live class, this was in the early 2000s or whatever. And someone said, well, if you were to qualify, what is the best sign, all around total, like, and what would you say is the worst sign? And he said, the answer to both is Scorpio. And I was like, I love that
Mhm.
because his point
Yeah.
being, an unenlightened Scorpio is a psycho, is like
Uh-huh.
sociopathic, psychopathic. An enlightened Scorpio can be a master, a saint, most accomplished in their field. And as Jamie, we were talking about earlier, we've got Bill Gates, for example, and Julia Roberts. I mean, both
Mhm.
top of their field on our birthday, October 28th, along with obviously many other leaders, et cetera, who are um, Scorpios. Jordan, do you know anyone in particular who's your date?
Oh, Joni Mitchell, I think.
Okay, that's a good one.
I was looking at October. So great, just a diversion. Wikipedia is a great place to find out. Like, don't just look for a person, Google the day in Wikipedia, and you'll get this list of deceased and current people. But anyways,
You have your birthday, yeah.
Joni Mitchell, who's that General Petraeus, who is not like doesn't mean anything to me one way or another, but I think he was November 7th.
Okay.
Um, I feel, oh, Dana Plato. Okay. So Dana Plato,
Different strokes.
yeah, I loved her, and she had such a struggle in her life, and I love that show. So I've always, and I think she was born exactly on my birthday because I think she's in 1973.
Okay.
So I just always felt some kind of connection to Dana Plato spiritually.
Hmm.
And so yeah, that's one.
Okay.
So are you guys
What do you guys
into,
make of that? Go ahead, Jamie.
oh, I was just curious if you guys are also into the whole birth chart thing, if you've ever done that online or with somebody.
No. What is that?
It's where you plug in your time of birth, city of birth, birthday, and then it comes up with even more about your personality details.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you guys had your chart done by an astrologer? Have you had all that?
No, not by an astrologer, but by somebody who knows a lot about astrology.
Yeah.
Showed me the website and we did my birth chart and
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so I've had that done by an astrologer and learned my rising and my, moon and all that. Yeah.
oh, fun.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, well, Jordan, what do you think about that? That Scorpio has that extremes, right? That there's that run the gamut of being the best and the worst all simultaneously.
Unfortunately, or I mean, that absolutely applies to me. So
Yeah.
I hate to admit it in some ways, but so, like, there's people. the expression "you either love me or you hate me" has always applied to me. I have a fair
Right.
share of haters on this planet. I hate to say it. I shouldn't, God, I shouldn't say that publicly. I just mean that I feel like I've grown as a person a lot, but there were times when I was pretty rough. So
Sure,
uh,
sure.
I think I've made it up to those people through my soul somehow.
Right. And bringing up this from the soul perspective, right? The idea that we chose this incarnation, right? Our higher self, our soul, that we chose the circumstances, the parents, all the alignments that and the challenges as opportunities for our soul to grow in this life. Um, Being born a Scorpio, I've always held a certain level of pride in. I don't know if that's, it's obviously ego, but it's also like I like the opportunity for how much it embodies, right? I don't look at things, I see the depth of it all. We come from that perspective of how powerful it all is, right? And it's just we have an incredible intuition, especially as a female Scorpio. I'm going to talk to Jamie about this and just, sorry, Jordan, but just, the double aspect of being a fixed water sign, a feminine energy, and a Scorpio. We have like intuition off the charts. Would you not agree?
Yeah, no, I definitely feel very connected. I feel like I have really good intuition. I trust my gut a lot. So
Yeah,
I I feel you on that one for sure.
right. And I think what one thing Scorpios can do that it makes, I think part of the reason why people get that uh-oh feeling about Scorpios is we can see people's secrets. Like I have an incredible ability to kind of go, oh, I know what you do. And it's
Mhm.
just something that I don't know how I know, but I know. And
Mhm.
people can sense that, I think, sometimes.
Mhm.
Yeah. And also simultaneously, Scorpios are known as very secretive, right? That
Yes.
we have this kind of guarded personality, but we're also incredibly loyal and
Mhm.
and mostly trustworthy. We don't lie. So it's like secretive but also honest, which is an interesting mix because secretive almost implies deceptive, but it's not. Do you know what I mean?
Yes. Are you into anything like paranormal, that kind of thing too? Oh, okay.
Oh yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. How about you?
Um, it scares me a little bit,
Yeah. Sure.
but I feel like I am in tune with it. So, but it actually scares me a little bit to be like too in tune with it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's wise. You have to keep protections up.
Mhm.
But I also know that I can help remove dark energies. That's something that
Mhm.
I've had experience with, which was intense.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I lived in a haunted house, I swear, when I was in high school for a part of a year. We had a rental house and it really scared me. So I don't
Yeah.
like
Did
that
did
kind
you
of
see
stuff.
apparitions? Did you have
I
experiences?
sensed it. I sensed it. And then it turns out my dad did too. Like he heard things. I sensed it. We didn't know it at the same time. We didn't actually talk about it.
Right.
And then till much later. And then I found out later on from a high school friend that the house was actually haunted. Like it's a known fact from my
Oh,
community
wow.
that the house was haunted. And so, but I sensed it. I totally sensed it. My dad sensed it. And then I had another experience later on, many years later too, like in another house and
What
took
was that one?
me out. Another rental house up in Tahoe, like a vacation house with friends,
Hmm.
where I saw and heard things, and I swear it was real. Like it wasn't in my head because somebody else saw it too, and so I don't know. So that's why I was saying it just kind of. I'm not really. I don't seek it out. Like it just sort of scares me more than anything. Some people are into
Yeah.
it and trying to connect with stuff like that, but I'm not really into it, even though I'm a Scorpio. I love Halloween,
Yeah.
but yeah, I'm not really into it. I love
Yeah, I
scary
get it.
movies though. That's
You
like
do.
my favorite. Yeah, it's my favorite
Genre.
style of of
Yeah.
movies and films
Yeah.
is scary movies.
Well, yeah, that's a Scorpio trait. Jordan,
Yes.
are you drawn to the macabre or the scary?
Um, Someone asked me this something similar the other day. I am not a big fan of horror films, like, and even when I watch, and I love Forensic Files and Dateline, but I also scare myself. Like to me, that's scary. Like the person that is so charming, the psychopath that is so charming that like I get to know them and then they come after me. That's my biggest, more of my fear, right? Because I've known a few of those, not killers, but necessarily. But
Yeah.
anyways, I didn't like Friday the 13th. Like that kind of spooked me because that seemed plausible, right?
Right.
As opposed to like something totally fictional, like Alien kind of thing. That
Right.
scared me so much.
Yeah. Um, yeah, the Scorpio, drawn to the Halloween. Like I too love Halloween. Are you a Halloween person, Jordan? Do you dress up? Do you?
I mean, I used to. I don't so much anymore. Actually, I've seen one of Elizabeth's witch costumes, which is really impressive.
I
Thank you.
bet.
Impressive. Now that gets a little spooky because you're like, wow, that like there's something there, you know?
It's a little too,
It's
she
a little
leans
too
into
real.
that a little too hard, huh? Again, that's, yeah, the scary aspect of the Scorpio, right? Um, so I want to, like, so we can use this time right now to kind of like lean into or, debunk some of the theories about Scorpios. Like, so the idea that Scorpios are incredibly possessive and jealous.
Mhm.
Yes, no, kids?
Oh, I am. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Mhm.
Jordan,
Well, yeah, I was going to ask, does that go both ways? Um, I'm not very jealous. Um, Maybe I should be. I mean, I'm not very jealous, but I
you
probably
should.
should be. Like I've always said that like um I was confident like in relationships, confident and thought maybe I was too overconfident thinking like, "Oh, sure. Um Go hang out with so and so or blah blah blah." Like I thought that was a way of also exuding confidence, right? Um but if I do break up with someone, then yes, I'm very then the concerns come out.
You're retroactively
Yeah,
possessive and jealous.
yeah.
Yeah, so I definitely that is one of my crosses to bear. I work on that of that I can get very like, hooked in and overly focused on possessiveness, which I always again, we can't see past our own lens, but I always just thought, well, that's just normal, right? That's just, and then I've met other people who are like, I don't really, and I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Really? Oh, oh, you know,
Well,
Mhm.
one thing is here's where it comes out for me, and maybe this is interesting to you ladies. Like, I will ask in a romantic relationship, I ask a lot of questions about the former person. And
okay.
I never thought of it this way before, but that is kind of it's competitive in nature. But I'm far more curious because they will always say to me, "Why do you care so much?" And
Hmm.
I don't know why I care so much, but I do. I want to know. I'm an inquiring mind. So,
Yeah. But but all right, so then there's the question of does it then haunt you? Does it bother you? Do you then get like obsessive about it? Or do you kind of just go, oh, that's nice?
for a little bit, I might.
Ruminate.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
have a lot. There's intrigue. Yeah, I have to think about that more, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. What about you, Jamie?
Oh yes, I obsess. But that I
Yeah.
think that's just, part of being a woman a little bit. I don't know, but or
Yeah.
Scorpio, but yeah, that's like you said, part of my cross to bear. Still
Yeah.
working on that.
I know. And that is as much as I'm like, it serves me to a point, but then it also can get very self-destructive. And that's something
Mhm.
that's really important about the Scorpio nature. Again, if we're talking about that, it's an exemplification of the duality, right? That if we're in the Kabbalistic sense, it's both the best and the worst all
Yeah.
simultaneously. Well, that's very true in the third dimension, that the yin and the yang all exist at the same time. A Scorpio, when surrounded by a ring of fire, will inject its own tail into its head and commit suicide.
Hmm.
So there is often a negative trait or something that we need to watch. I don't even want to say it's negative, but a trait of Scorpios is that self-destructiveness, right? So we can like,
Yes.
I want to open Pandora's box. I want to know about all your ex-lovers and how I could, and then I'm like, no, right? And then suddenly,
Yeah.
oh, we've released the demons and it's on, right? So it's also being monitoring ways that we can be self-destructive and trying to heal that in ourselves.
Hmm.
So where that comes up for me is that I still maintain relationships or connections even on social media. I don't know that that's such a good thing, right? But I think those women are also cognizant of the fact that, like, they don't post things that they might, and I appreciate it. They don't post things, and they could, that would like really maybe trigger me. And I
Mhm.
can't believe they're doing that for me, right? That's so selfish and egotistical in its own right. But somehow I believe that you should stay connected to your partners, which is probably not is contraindicated for mental health, but I do it anyways. So I don't know.
Right. And then, but then that also gets into like, until you're in a new partnership where they're like, I'd really wish you wouldn't be in contact with your ex-lover and that kind of thing. That's where
Oh
it gets
yeah,
tricky, you
yeah,
know?
yeah.
Yeah. And that leads us to the fun subject of sexuality in Scorpio, which again, that's part of the reason why people go, oh, when you tell them you're a Scorpio, right? That has this element of being the ultra sexiest. And some of that is innate, given the fact that we are if the astrological signs to different parts of the body correspond, we are the genitals, we are the loins, we are the reproductive organs. So, I mean, if you have to be assigned to any part of the body, like I think we kind of got the best one. But so the innate aspect of connection of sexuality to Scorpio is very real, which is also why we have the reputation of being very intense lovers, very typically good in bed, kind of any of the astrological signs. Uh, the fixed water sign, right? Having that fluidity, that depth, that very feminine aspect too, which is the water sign. Does that resonate with you guys?
Yeah, I'm always happy that I get to be part of the zodiac sign that gets that reputation. So I'll take it. I love being part of the Scorpio
Yeah.
sign that gets the good reputation. I'll take it.
And I think more than just being sexual, it's also the sensual, right? The aspect of it's not just like the pure act of sex, but it's the embodiment of
Hmm.
sensuality and the depth of sexiness being mindful, right? Being
Hmm.
potent in ways other than just body, right? That
Yeah.
the sexiness is kind of an innate characteristic of the Scorpio.
Yeah, they always talk about magnetism and,
Mhm.
you know, magnetic eyes and stuff like that. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's not just about the bedroom. Sometimes it's just about like attraction and stuff like that. So yeah,
Yeah.
it
Jordan, do you feel like being a Scorpio gives you a little extra strut, a little extra
yeah.
swagger?
Yeah, I mean, well, okay, so this goes back to what I was saying before. I would often ask questions and compare, right?
Right.
Shocked at how many men like eye contact is huge. They're like I'm shocked how many men are actually missing out on opportunities when um like the sensuality is like Elizabeth said, it's not just the sex, the sensuality, it's potent stuff. And it's like the number of men that I've heard from the women, like it's not to say that they're not good lovers, right? It's just that they're not like they're missing small nuanced opportunities that make the passion really go crazy. And I'm like
They
shocked by that because I
they
assume,
might also be bad lovers, Jordan.
okay, well, I just assumed that that's
They
how
might.
everybody was, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I assume that's how everybody was. And then like, uh, I've learned that that's not the case. So it's just amazing, like what some guys are missing out on, in my opinion.
Yes. That's a good point. Yeah. And then again, what you took for granted, because again, you embody innate Scorpio characteristics of the connection, sensuality, depth of connection, right? That takes it to the other level, which is why I think we get that reputation of being the sexiest sign.
Well, okay, I shouldn't even say this in public, but who the hell cares? I when I
Let's say it.
like the whole notion of sexting and texting, like
Uh-huh.
that's an art and a science that I think Scorpios are pretty adept at. Like the fact that guys can't be flirtatious and court women and like build up suspense, like that comes kind of, God, I feel like I'm tooting my own horn, no pun intended, but
Toot away.
like to me, that's so natural for me. Like maybe I'm creative or whatever. Imagine it. I have a very vivid imagination, but
Hmm.
that to me is all part of the connection and the courtship. Maybe I learned it from the animal kingdom. I mean, there's a lot men could learn from the animal kingdom because the way animals court, it's not wham bam, thank you, ma'am. They still own the fact that, hey, I've got to turn this gal on, right? And so people could learn a lot from the animal kingdom. But going back to humans, the connection, all the stuff before and after the sex is vitally important. And I'd like to think it comes naturally to Scorpios because I wasn't paying attention to much in school, so I definitely wasn't in that class, but I
Right.
learned it somehow on my own. And I don't know where it comes from. And also, my parents are both Scorpios, so maybe
Oh,
Wow.
wow. That's
uh,
cool.
through osmosis and or
Yeah,
epigenetics.
that's an intense household,
Yeah,
Jordan.
it is.
Lordy. Yeah. Wow. I wanted to bring up something that Jordan and I have talked about, but I wanted to ask you, Jamie, if this is something you experience. Obviously, you're, uh, erudite and learned and have probably great language skills and communication. But
Thank
one
you.
thing that I notice, or the reputation of Scorpios have that I would echo that I do, is that when pushed, right, when backed up, or if I get defensive, I can have a very scathing tongue. I can snap back, and with sometimes, and I'm like, oh my, um,
Mhm.
and that's something I'm working on. But is that something that you can experience? Sometimes it's deserved. I'm not saying it's always that I'm in the wrong, but I can have that like in a snap.
Yeah, I can get I can lose my temper
Mm-hmm.
if I'm pushed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if somebody pushes my buttons or hits the wrong nerve.
Yeah.
Um, so it's again something I'm working on. It was interesting you brought up, the self-destructive behaviors. Like there are so many things that I do that are good for me, and then there are so many things that are bad for me too. And anger can be a really good thing for me that has
Mhm.
been something that's really protected me in a lot of ways or been
Mhm.
part of my drive
Sure.
in a lot of ways, but also like yeah, I don't want to like snap if somebody doesn't deserve it. So it's part of, whether it's being a Scorpio or just like having too much on my plate or stress or whatever.
All
Yeah,
right.
just another part of being human that I'm working on.
Yeah. Um, yeah, and I think the being able to s give back sometimes when we're attacked or we're, is helpful as long as we're not abusing it or being cruel, right?
Hmm.
And to your point, the idea of anger as fuel, right? Like that's a way of putting it, is that like anger, that fire in the belly can motivate you, it can activate you.
Mhm.
When it turns destructive is when we're allowing it to eat us up inside or actively hurting somebody else. So that's kind of
Mhm.
like the difference in consciousness around anger isn't always a bad thing. Jordan, I know you've shared with me a little bit about like sometimes you can have a sharp tongue. Is that something you want to talk about a bit?
Sure. Um, I've used a sharp, like I can go from 0 to 60 or too fast, right? So in my history, God, I've never said this before. Like it occurred to me that if I know people and I'm around friends, they might say he's a really nice guy and he will apologize for that probably to you, but that like he gets like he can go nuts. And then the problem is when it's with strangers, right? Like I don't, not that I get into road rage anymore, but my old self would have easily gotten in a confrontation with someone so much that I'm surprised by it, quite frankly. And
Mm-hmm.
so I have to really temper that because strangers don't know that you're not a total lunatic, right? That's
Right.
your first impression. And they're like, oh my God, let me call the special forces. So this is like has been a, I don't even, shouldn't even joke about it because it's been a problem for me. Like emails, my bosses would often email me and say, why, like I might even copy them on something. And they may say, why did you say that? Like,
Right.
wow, you didn't need to say that,
Yeah, yeah.
and they'd have to apologize on my behalf.
Right. But to your point that that's an older version of yourself, right? And going back to Jamie talking about like the different layers of evolution as we evolve, as we shift, right? That we're that phoenix energy, right? That we there's the death of the old self and then the emergence of the next version of ourself. And I do feel like if I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that like in our incarnation as a Scorpio soul is particularly potent because we have that ability to go to extremes and reinvent ourselves, right? That we are okay with the little ego deaths that are involved, that are inevitable in our own spiritual evolution, right?
Mhm.
Because that's deep soul work. That's not for the faint of heart, right? To be able to reinvent and shed that old skin and go, okay, I can do better. I am doing better. Um, and
True.
I would say, Jordan, as a male, we applaud you, brother, for doing that because we need more men on the planet to go, oh, I might have been wrong in that one. Maybe I can do better. And we'll say, yes, please.
Mhm.
Yes,
Yeah,
please.
it's not helped me. Like I don't try to tell people that I'm a Scorpio because it scares people. And so as a guy, I don't usually say that until I get to know someone. And then because I always feel like I have to back talk, or what's the word, but walk back some of the
Hmm.
things and put things in context. So
Mhm.
that doesn't help. But one thing I wanted to say really quick is that it occurred to me, the animal person in me wants to say that Scorpios are probably assumed by most people who haven't seen them in nature to be a lot bigger than they are, right? And so there's something about the Scorpio charisma and personality that is also in many ways a bigger than life personality. And I think that there's something there. I just made that connection. But it's interesting to me.
That's funny you get that. I get that a lot where people are like, "Oh wow, I thought you were much taller." And I'm like, "No, I'm pretty small, you know. I just have
Well,
a big aura."
well, I was thinking in terms of personality, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, but energetically
Oh,
is kind of
energetically. Yeah,
also
yeah,
what you mean. Yeah.
People
Um,
also think I'm bigger than I am when they meet me, like from all my modeling pictures and stuff.
yeah.
How tall
I'm
are you?
smaller. I'm 5'7", but when they see me in person, I'm just smaller than I look in
Oh, okay.
pictures and more
Right, right.
petite and overall just a
Yeah.
small, teenier person, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I think that we also like unapologetically being Scorpios is a maybe we're a kind of a support group for that, meaning like, you feel like you were saying you feel defensive to tell people you're Scorpio because you get that reaction of like, oh God. Um, being able to own our power, I think is really important because recognizing that like we are on a really powerful journey of holding that space of the reproductive organs, the sign of death, the fixed water, all of the inherent qualities of the Scorpio is an honor, right? And so with great response, what is the saying? With great power comes great responsibility. It's powerful. So we have to be responsible how we handle it and always staying in the heart chakra, always staying in kindness, always seeking to be better, right?
Hmm.
That's the soul of the Scorpio's journey, I would say, at least from my perspective. Um, Jamie, tell us a little bit more about yourself and if anything you want to promote or what you're doing right now and how people could seek you if they were looking for your work.
Yeah, so I can be found on Instagram at Jamie Lee Kendall. I have,
Kendall.
yeah,
Kendall.
Kendall. I have a couple of things coming up in the next couple of months, hosting jobs. Hopefully, I'll be working. Well, I know I'll be hosting for Cyber Defense TV in Orlando, Florida, coming up in October, and
Great.
hopefully something again with Babes in Toyland this summer. And yeah, so a lot of things having to do with hosting, some modeling gigs, and excited to see this air. This was super fun. Thank you so much for having me. It was so fun to meet you, Elizabeth,
Oh,
and
you too.
yeah, fun to do another one with you, Jordan, and talk about everything Scorpio.
Yeah,
Yes.
thank you so much. I mean, this isn't just like trivial for me at all. Like this is part of my healing process to learn about my personality traits that are not um, extraordinary, but have more of a divine connection, if you will, or a stellar connection. Uh,
Hmm.
Astrological. So yeah, thank you so much for joining us. And it's funny that the way that I met Jamie was I was looking for birthdays. People shared my birthday and Elizabeth's birthday. And this is what I told you last time, Jamie. And then what happened was I forgot that that's how I found you. And then I remembered, oh, yes, I was looking for Scorpios on those dates. So
Oh,
that's
that's great. Well, it was meant to be.
Yeah,
Um, yeah. Thank you so much. And thank you for being our first guest. This is really exciting to get to dive in to this. And we will have more conversations like this. Jordan has a podcast called Don't Follow the Shepherd on iTunes and Spotify. Yes. And my
Spotify and
podcast,
YouTube.
say it again.
Spotify and YouTube. I don't, it's not on it.
Spotify and YouTube. Okay. And mine is Sacred Alchemy on iTunes and Spotify. So again, we will meet again to talk about the soul of the Scorpio. Thank you so much, Jamie Kendall. It's really a pleasure to meet and talk with you.
thank you.
Thank you.